Right, no time for introductions this time. I just finished fitting the timing belt and gave it a test run to make sure it's running. Now the car is hot and I kind of need it for what I'm trying to experiment today. So, gonna get started, we'll do an intro later. We're talking about the O2 sensor, or the O2 sensor that isn't there. Now the car is hot, very hot, and I'm hoping that because the car is hot I can just throw a bit of oil there, cool the plug out, and the turbo is hot, the plug's cold, and hopefully that won't be a problem. So let's give that a try. So I've got my 27mm socket. I already had an extension ready, and this is my breaker bar. This is what, 2 foot I think? 2 foot breaker bar. Let's see if this comes out. No luck with the 2 foot. Let's try the big one. So this is my big breaker bar, the one that has never failed me. There you go. That is the cap loose, or at least loose to a certain point. So I think we do have a winner here. So there you go, pro tip, less than 10 minutes. And that bolt is out. Now, I can't touch it because it's too hot. Hello and welcome to the channel. I think you already saw the important bit. Today I'm going closed loop. So, what am I missing here? The capping bolt is out, so I need to go fetch my O2 sensor. And here's the plug. The wiring's already there. I don't know if the wiring actually connects to the ECU, so we'll get to that later. And then I will also give you a little bit of an introduction to the Everest chip that I have installed in my car. I have 2 modes, closed and open loop on it, so all I have to do is change the jumper on it from closed to open loop. So, let's get going. Here I have ultra power oxygen sensor. Now, I gotta say, I've not fitted this and I'm assuming there's nothing wrong with this. And it came from the usual supplier from America. And hopefully I can show you what this is about. So here's the plug. And this is the plug that is in the car. I had this plug already installed here. It was a blank in there, and I just took it off there for the purposes of showing. But the lighting is a bit terrible here, but let's see if we can get the focus in place. You can see how that lines up with that. Yeah, it's exactly the same plug from the car. And all I have to do is plug this into the car now, and it comes with its own washer. So, just gonna take that out of there, put this in, wrench it down, connect it, and then we'll go to the inside of the car to look at the ECU side of things. And there it is. And now, fingers crossed, these two go together, the plugs align, and there we go. That is how to replace an oxygen sensor or install an oxygen sensor that isn't there. So, the next thing that you have to do is take the wheel arch liner out, and then you encounter this one here. So I've already taken this out. It's usually clipped there. It's usually clipped up there, and then it comes and joins here. And this is the main harness connection. This is the main harness connection from the driver's side to the back. And you can see over there, that's where it goes into the car, so it's insulated and everything. Now, what you want to look at is the 2 wires that come out of here, if they have pins or not on that side. So, what we can look at is the color coding, and here you can see the color coding for the sensor. It's gray and green, and it's brown and yellow. So it's a brown wire with a yellow tracer and a grey wire with a green tracer. Now they're not tracers literally speaking, but we'll get to that. Well, you have to work with what you have. So the brown wire with a yellow tracer and the green wire with the grey wire with the green tracer, and if you follow them, you find that they both go here at this edge. So you can see grey with the green tracer there, just about there, and right next to it, it's the brown, which I can't show you the tracer because, well, I have to hold the camera with one hand. But that brown is the one with the yellow tracer. And if you also pay attention to it, their location matches what the wiki says. So it's these two pins. And what you want to do is find out if this wire here, if the connection from the main car has the two pins connected to anything. Now it's really easy to see that there's two wires there with nothing here on this side, and on the other side everything is connected. So the place is quite easy to find out because there's two pins there and then there's nothing here. So you want to find here on this back the side that has two pins and nothing, but as you can see there's nothing there, there's three empty pins. So what this means is that I need to actually splice these two wires from here, splice onto them, and then effectively stretch them, or continue them through inside the car, so that then we can connect them to the correct places. So if you have those two wires, you just plug this and you should be alright. If those two wires are missing, you have to splice the wires from here and then continue and route stuff. So what I'm going to do is put the wires through there to the inside of the car, and then we'll show you where things go. Now the easiest way to do it is feed the wire through the inside to the outside, but in order to do that we need to do a little trick, which is to use a piece of metal like this, make a little hoop there, and then feed that over there. Hopefully I can actually feed this with one hand. Right, so in order to make my life easier, I've removed the seat from the car, and I'm just gonna try to show you where that thing comes out, and hopefully it can be seen. Okay, now you should be able to see it. That is the metal wire, so it's there ready to pick up the wires once they need to be fed. So the next thing you're trying to find is the top pinnacle, which has two screws here and here. You undo those, you lift the front and pull. You lift the front and pull forward. So I'm going to try to do this with one hand, which is again nearly impossible. Just going to pull forward, and that comes out. Now what we're looking for here is a brown wire somewhere, a brown wire with a yellow tracer. If we just locate a brown wire with a yellow tracer, we already have it here. I think the camera can see it. And now we just need to confirm that that is the correct wire. So if I turn around, I can check that is the fourth wire from this side, and that checks out with this location here, which if you look at the manual, there is 3 pins on one side and 4 pins on the other side, and 15 is actually on the splitter, the one that is closer to the 3 pins. So that checks out with that brown wire. So what we want to do is splice this brown wire, and that splice goes all the way up to the front with the brown wire there. And we also want to splice the one near the ECU and bring it all the way. So I'm going to do all of that without the camera being filming, because it's too much to film. So I need to cut this wire And I will then show you the connectors that I use to put everything together. But yeah, now this is meant to be connected here. I just disconnected that to make my life easier to show you what I'm trying to do. Just make sure you don't get the wrong wire. It's the brown wire with the yellow trace, not the yellow wire, so the one that's currently in front. Right, and here I have the slate and green wire. I've decided to route it from the ECU up through here to meet the brown wire. So I got my brown and yellow wire here, brown with yellow tracer and slate with green tracer here. So what I'm going to do now is put a couple of zip ties and then feed them all the way down, and then feed them all the way to the front on the wheel arch. And after they are fed and all the way through, then I'm going to make the splices. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull the wires out. Hopefully the camera is actually pointing at it. Close enough, I guess. Right, so I'm going to try to pull the wires out and see if they actually come. And they did come. So here I have my extended harness now with, as you can see here, a brown wire with a yellow tracer and a gray wire with a green tracer, which matches those. So I maintain the color coding, and then I can update my own papers. Right, so now, ooh, that's too much light. Right, so I have a connector done here. Hopefully that's filming. Now, I have not done soldering for this. I have just used crimp connectors. So I have taken the two crimp connectors out of the one from the clamshell and crimped them into my new wires, which then go in. So on the inside, the wires come up to the binnacle, where you can see over here I have done a T-junction to crimp. Right, let's see if we can get the light in a way that is not so in the way. Right, so there it is. It's a three-way junction there for the brown wire with a yellow tracer, and it's a three-way junction. And the reason it's a three-way junction, it's because you can't cut it. If you cut it, the alternator light will always be on. So on the other side, the green and so what happens after that is that from here the gray and green wire goes underneath and follows down to here, where I have then completely cut, hopefully you can see that, here where I completely cut the existing wire and put a new adapter, a new terminal to connect the two. I did cut the wire. I don't know if this is going to cause any issue, but as far as the wiring diagrams for the SE state, this wire doesn't even exist. So if it does something, it's something very mysterious, but it's most likely just connected to somewhere where it's not connected to anything at the end. So I've just cut it, but if I need to, I can always go and change these two connectors to be a three-way junction. Right, and here we have the installation or the modification of the chip, the ECU. So you open the glove box, and then you can see here that I'm pointing at the location of the two nuts that hold the ECU in place. Now, I remember correctly, those were a size 9 mil, but you know, anything between 8 and 10 is probably going to get you there. And it's just a matter of unlocking them in the beginning and then they come out by hand. And it's just a matter of sliding it forwards towards you. And then as you can see, hopefully there will be a bit of light there in a second, everything is still connected. Now I'm going to disconnect both connectors, I guess. And it's a little bit of a faff to remove them because the access is a bit awkward. And here's the ECU completely out. Now there's a little bolt there that's on both sides. That's the little cover that we want to remove in order to get access to then put the upgrade that run our cells. Now if I remember correctly, these will be size 7 bolts. Yeah, and for some reason I decided to use a socket there instead of just using the spanner. Maybe the spanner was the wrong size, I cannot remember. Right, and once the cover is out, here you can see the board as it stands. Hopefully I can focus this a little bit or zoom in. Now we need to pull the tabs out and go fetch the upgrade board from Ron R. Oh no, I already had the upgrade board installed. So I pushed the tabs out to remove the upgrade board. In my case, I just took that little plastic cover out as well, just to get easier access. So you can see here the upgrade board. Right, and now that the board is out, this is the board that you will get. And that is the jumper. So I'm just moving the jumper from one connection to the other connection.
I hope that this can focus.
And that will...
So, not bridged. Bridged.
Yeah, so I've now bridged that, and that will switch my machine from my chip from going open loop to be a closed loop Everest chip. Now, just to demonstrate, here I'm just removing and putting back the chip that was originally in the board, so that you can see that the board from Ronar plugs into the existing chip that was there. Now, there isn't really much to say here because it's just a matter of putting everything back together. So, clamping everything together and pushing the tabs. It's quite important to make sure that the tabs click back in, just like you just saw there. And then put everything back together and connect it all up.
Right, so it's been a couple of days since the last piece of footage. So the car struggled to start. I had to feather the throttle in order for it to start, and it would run as long as I had the throttle. As soon as I lifted the throttle, it would die. Now this happened for a few starts, and then after a bit, it actually settled. In order for me to actually get it to start, what I did was to undo the idle air valve screw a bit, and once I did that, it started, and then I just got it to warm up to idle. I think it just, the ECU is learning or something, and once it was warmed up, I readjusted the screw, and put it back to where it was, so 2 turns out and then 2 turns back in, and now the car starts just on the key, no problem. The problem that I had after that difficult start was that once the car was running, the alternator light was always on. Now this is a known issue because the brown wire with the yellow tracing is actually the one that is used to guide that illumination panel. And this is an issue with some alternators, not all alternators. But the thing that I need to warn everyone about here is that my alternator is a brand new one from the SJ Sports cars that I bought a year ago, and it had this issue. Now to resolve the issue, and this is why it's been 2 days, I had to remove the old alternator, or the new alternator, and swap it with the one that I have rebuilt, and it's on the previous video. That rebuilt kit was provided by Simon P on the forum, and he actually did a lot of research to find out the correct regulator that would not cause this issue when you go closed loop. And as he predicted, I swapped it, and I don't have the light on the alternator on the dashboard. So things are good. So all I have to do now is actually take the car for a spin and see if it's better or not and if everything is fine. So I'm gonna do that, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.